Tonight on the Midnight Drive, we're walking beneath the palm trees and old marble headstones of Hollywood Forever Cemetery, a place where some of the most recognizable faces in modern culture were laid to rest, while their images continued living forever on movie screens, posters, billboards, and television sets. Because Hollywood doesn't just create celebrities. It creates emotional mythology. And maybe that's why old Hollywood feels so strange now. Beautiful, elegant, glamorous, but also deeply sad when you stare at it long enough. Tonight, we explore celebrity worship, old Hollywood aesthetics, parasocial attachment, fame, loneliness, image preservation, and the strange psychological moment when a human being slowly stops feeling like a person and starts feeling like a symbol. Hollywood Forever Cemetery might be one of the most California places in existence. Palm trees, movie stars, marble crypts, sunset light reflecting off old mausoleums while the Los Angeles skyline glows in the distance. It's beautiful, but there's something strange about it too. Not frightening, more like emotionally disorienting. Because Hollywood Forever isn't simply a cemetery, it's a monument to image preservation. A place where famous people were buried, while their faces continued living everywhere else. Movie screens, posters, billboards, streaming services, YouTube clips, music, interviews, photographs, frozen permanently at younger ages than most people will ever remember them being in real life. That changes the emotional atmosphere surrounding celebrity death entirely. Most people disappear gradually after they die. Families remember them. Friends remember them. Maybe a few photographs survive. But celebrities remain publicly visible long after the human being underneath the image is gone. That's psychologically strange when we think about it really, really hard, especially in Hollywood, because Hollywood already blurs the line between person, character, performance, identity, projection. Actors become emotionally associated with roles. Musicians become attached to eras of people's lives. Famous faces become psychologically familiar to strangers. And over enough time, the public can start relating to celebrities less like people and more like emotional landmarks. That's the foundation of celebrity worship. It's not stupidity. It's attachment. It's comfort. It's escape. People watch the same movies repeatedly when they're feeling heartbreak, when they're thinking about nostalgia, their childhood, when they're experiencing grief or loneliness, the holidays, any time that they're going through difficult periods of life. And eventually, certain actors, musicians, and public figures become emotionally tied to those memories in and of themselves. That's why celebrity deaths can feel genuinely painful, even for people who never met the person. The grief is not fake. It's parasocial. A one-sided emotional relationship built through repeated exposure. Hollywood understood this incredibly early on. The entertainment industry realized people don't merely consume stories. They emotionally bond with faces, voices, personalities, aspirations. And once media technology advanced far enough, human beings achieved something psychologically unprecedented: artificial immortality. Not literal immortality, image immortality. A person could die physically, while their younger self continued appearing endlessly on screens forever. That creates a really weird disconnect between the human being and the preserved version of them, doesn't it? Especially in old Hollywood, because old Hollywood aesthetics already feel dreamlike. Velvet curtains, film projectors, champagne lounges, black and white photography, classic convertibles outside glowing theaters, the Roosevelt Hotel, Hollywood Boulevard during its golden era. Everything feels elegant, curated, timeless. But if you stare at old Hollywood long enough, the sadness underneath starts becoming impossible to ignore. Maybe because glamour itself is built around projection. Beauty, youth, charm, status, desirability. Hollywood became a machine dedicated to preserving idealized versions of people. And idealization creates enormous pressure, especially once public image becomes more valuable than the person themselves. That's part of why so many old Hollywood stories feel tragic in retrospect. Think about it. Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland, River Phoenix. Countless people adored publicly while struggling privately beneath the expectations attached to their image. And maybe that's why Hollywood Forever Cemetery feels emotionally heavier than a normal cemetery. The people buried there didn't fully disappear culturally. Their images survived. Their performances survived. Their mythology survived. Which means visitors aren't simply walking among graves. They're walking among preserved emotional symbols. That atmosphere changes how people behave there, too. When fans go there, they leave flowers, notes, records, photographs, handwritten letters. Not because they knew these celebrities personally, but because the emotional connection still feels so real to them. And in a strange way, it is real. Media allows people to spend hundreds of hours with public figures emotionally. Long enough, that familiarity itself starts feeling personal. That's one reason celebrity culture became so psychologically powerful in California specifically. Hollywood transformed visibility into emotional currency. And eventually, fame itself started feeling almost spiritual to people, a form of transcendence, if you will. Proof that somebody escaped ordinary life permanently. And there's another side to that illusion. Because fame doesn't stop people from feeling lonely, from aging, from struggling mentally, from developing addictions, from questioning meaning, to feeling emotionally disconnected. In fact, visibility can actually intensify those problems. Once people stop interacting with you like you're a person and start interacting with you like you're a symbol, that's the weird part about celebrity culture psychologically in a nutshell. The more famous somebody becomes, the harder it becomes for others to separate the public image from the actual human being. And eventually, the celebrity themselves can start losing that separation as well. Performance becomes identity. Image becomes labor. Public expectation becomes constant pressure. That's why Hollywood can feel both glamorous and mournful at the exact same time. Yes, the beauty is real. Yes, the elegance is real. And yes, the art is real. But so is the emotional cost attached to turning human beings into mythology. And maybe that's why Hollywood Forever Cemetery affects people so strongly. Not because it feels haunted in a traditional sense, but because it forces visitors to confront something psychologically weird. Some people become so visible in life that even death cannot fully return them to being ordinary human beings again. What do you make of this? Let us know in the comments below wherever you might be listening tonight. We always love having you along for the ride right here on the Midnight Drive. All right, so with that first segment, we may have uncovered something here. Maybe that's the real haunting underneath Hollywood. It's not ghosts, it's expectation. Because once somebody becomes famous enough, the public stops interacting with them like a normal person. They become fantasy, aspiration, projection, escape, mythology, personified. And mythology is dangerous for human beings to carry long term, especially in California, where image itself becomes social currency. Hollywood doesn't merely reward talent, it rewards visibility, memorability, presence, the ability to hold attention. And eventually, that creates enormous pressure to remain emotionally consumable at all times. They've got to stay beautiful enough, young enough, interesting enough, relevant enough, marketable enough. And that pressure changes people because maintaining a public image is so psychologically draining and exhausting, especially once the image becomes larger than the actual person underneath it. Marilyn Monroe may be one of the clearest examples of this. At some point, Marilyn Monroe stopped functioning as merely a human being in a cultural sense. She became symbolism itself. Beauty, fame, seduction, Hollywood glamour, tragic femininity, American mythology. And once a person becomes symbolic enough, the public can start forgetting there was an actual vulnerable human nervous system underneath all of that projection. A person capable of loneliness, insecurity, exhaustion, confusion, depression, addiction, fear. And that disconnect creates complete emotional isolation. Because how in the world do you feel seen, fully seen, once the entire world starts interacting with an idea of you instead of you as an actual person? That's one reason so many celebrity stories eventually drift toward sadness. Not because fame automatically destroys people, but because visibility complicates identity. The public version of somebody slowly starts competing with the private version. And eventually, those versions can drift so far apart that maintaining the performance becomes emotionally unsustainable. Hollywood intensifies that problem because the industry itself revolves around projection. Think about it. Actors project characters. Studios project fantasy. Advertisements project aspiration. Influencers project lifestyle. Everybody becomes partially constructed through image management. That's one reason old Hollywood aesthetics feel simultaneously elegant and eerie now. The glamour is still beautiful, but the machinery underneath starts becoming visible if you stare at it long enough. The makeup, the lighting, the contracts, the publicity systems, the addiction culture, the pressure to remain desirable forever. And maybe that's why old Hollywood stories continue haunting people emotionally decades later. Not because they feel distant, but because they feel recognizable. The modern world inherited so much of Hollywood's psychology. Social media simply democratized performance culture. Now, everybody curates themselves publicly to some extent. Think about that. Now, everybody curates themselves publicly to some extent. Are you on social media? Maybe. Think about this. Take this to heart. Think about photos that you post. Think about personal branding, online identity. How do you want to be regarded? Follower counts. Have you ever posted something and then 10 people like it? Maybe 100 people like it? Maybe you've gone low-key viral at some point. How did that make you feel? How did that change how you interacted with the internet after that? Fixating on visibility metrics, attention economics. Hollywood pioneered the blueprint, and the internet scaled it globally. And maybe that's part of why California still feels strangely ahead of culture emotionally. The state has been wrestling with identity performance longer than almost anywhere else. Who are you publicly? Who are you privately? What happens when those versions stop aligning? How much performance can a person sustain before becoming emotionally disconnected from themselves? Those questions live everywhere in Los Angeles, especially because California attracts people already searching for transformation. Actors trying to become recognizable, musicians trying to become unforgettable, influencers trying to become visible, dreamers just trying to become somebody. But becoming somebody publicly can create a strange emotional side effect. The audience starts believing that they know you. And eventually, the performer may begin shaping themselves around audience expectation too. That feedback loop can become psychologically dangerous, especially once fame arrives too quickly. Too much visibility too fast can destabilize people emotionally, because human beings were never evolutionarily designed to process recognition at massive scale. Thousands, millions, constant scrutiny, constant commentary, constant projection. No stable nervous system handles that perfectly. That's why Hollywood stories so often involve addiction, emotional escape, isolation, self-destruction, and identity confusion. The pressure compounds. And eventually, some celebrities become trapped between the person they actually are and the symbol the public demands they remain. That's emotionally terrifying when you really think about it. Especially in an industry where aging itself could start feeling threatening professionally. Because old Hollywood preserves youth obsessively. New Hollywood preserves youth obsessively. Old films freeze people permanently at idealized ages. Which creates another psychologically strange phenomenon. Some celebrities remain culturally younger forever, while the actual person continues aging privately in real life. That disconnect can become emotionally brutal, and maybe that's why Hollywood Forever Cemetery feels so symbolically perfect, because the cemetery preserves the final contradiction underneath celebrity culture. The bodies become mortal. The images did not. Movie stars continue smiling eternally from screens decades after death. Voices continue playing through the speakers. Faces remain frozen at beautiful moments in time. And meanwhile, the real human being underneath the mythology became increasingly difficult for the public to fully remember. That may be Hollywood's strangest illusion of all. Not fame, not glamour, not immortality, but the unsettling realization that image can survive long enough to outlive identity itself.